Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic on the bits problem. Lots of responses, and as I predicted, there was one person, one, who commented on throwing away bits. And I think most of us are kind of in the same situation. And that is to say, somewhere in the broad middle. From everybody that responded, there's like most of us try to keep them somewhat organized. So we've got like boxes, like the plastic bin things I showed, or some labeled baggies, but maybe it's not all as accurate as we'd want, and maybe a few are still on sprues here and there. We haven't got to clipping yet. It's not perfect. There were a couple interesting answers. Shout out to Nick, who said he purposely piles everything into sort of a big giant box and then uses that as inspiration for conversions as he just sorts through. If he does not sure what he wants to do, he'll literally just dump them all out and dig through and just find interesting things. That is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out. That is, you're a braver man than I. But I thought that was a very interesting way, because I will say I have had that happen where you're kind of digging around through bits, maybe looking for one thing, and then you just happen upon something else, and you're like, huh, that's a cool bit. Why haven't I ever used that before? And then, boom, some idea hits. So there may be something to that. I don't know. Maybe I just need to start randomly uh, reviewing just digging through bits every so often as a way to seek inspiration. But anyway, as usual, last week's video will be linked down below, so you can go check that out to see the video responses and all the discussion. Now let's turn to this week's topic. And this week we're going to focus a little more on Age of Sigmar, because we're going to talk about Movement Shenanigans. This was, again, another viewer suggestion, so shout out to Paul Conti, who asked this question a little while back. And the question is going to be around sort of Movement Shenanigans. So right now in Age of Sigmar, there are a lot of different ways that mobility gets defined. Some armies are just very fast. That is to say, they have a lot of high movement troops. Maybe they could be like traditional cavalry, or just very fast flyers or something like that, which in itself is, of course, its own form of mobility, the ability to ignore sort of intervening terrain, right? So, the number is big. The Host of Slanesh being an easy example of this, where you have units that can very regularly move 15, 20, 27, 30 inches in a turn, depending, even, or faster. So this is a lightning fast army as far as that goes. Then you have Movement Shenanigans of the drop pod variety, where, like, instead of deploying, they sort of start off the board and then they can just smack in. But then maybe they're stuck. A lot of units have this variety where, so this is Stormcast being the classic example, they can like lightning bolt down, but then once that's happened, they're kind of there. And that's it. They have to now walk slowly. Some armies have a little bit more of a hit and fade. Sylvaneth being a classic example where they can sort of teleport around, but only into their woods, right? So they can jump very regularly, teleporting around the board, but only where there are Sylvaneth woods. Wanderers can kind of move anywhere they want, fading away and reappearing, but it's only along the board edges. So there's lots of different ways this plays out. Mobility now takes many forms. And so my question this week for everybody that I think would be fun to discuss is sort of twofold. First off, do you like the varying, we'll just call them movement shenanigans? Do you like that they have introduced all of these different ways for armies to be mobile, or to have alternate ways to be in different places around the board? Okay, what do you think of them? And secondly, do you think enough armies have them? Too many armies have them? Not enough? Blah, blah, blah. Or do you think they're distributed the right way? What would you like to see more of, less of, in the individual movement shenanigans? For me personally, I will say that I'm actually quite a large fan of them. I think a lot of armies have them, but I think that they're almost completely a very positive thing. And the reason I say that is because they provide an interesting tactical challenge into how you each deploy. Because you need to be thinking about the opponent's movement shenanigan capabilities, where they're going to be coming in from. It can also mean that action can get started faster. You don't spend multiple turns just walking. You know, as you're sort of trying to find each other in the middle of the board. It means that you can more easily basically get into fights right away. I especially like them in missions where you have a very diffuse set of objectives that are very spread out around the board. Especially, I think of the new like Starfall scenario or whatever, where those objectives don't even necessarily show up on the first turn. So that really creates an interesting incentive structure of like, how much am I deploying to try to attack my enemy versus get an objective? You know, where's the objective going to land? Am I move if I lightning bolt down, if I've got that type of, you know, drop pod movement? Once that's done, if the objective now hits on the other side of the table, I can't foot slog it all the way over there. I'm never going to be able to play in that one. So I think it creates some interesting tensions. But that's the question. What do you think about the movement shenanigans? Do you like them? Do you want to see more, less? What kinds do you want to see more of or less of? As always, video responses will be linked down below, but feel free to drop a comment. Always appreciate all the discussion and very much look forward to it. But, as always, we'll see you next time.